So recently I was talking to a colleague of mine and telling them how I love entrepreneurship and starting businesses, and they say telling me how hard it is to start a business and how it needs a lot of money to start a business and how it's so stressful and all. They went on and telling me all the things that happen around businesses. And then I asked them, have you ever started a business? And then they told me no. And they said, yeah, because I'm afraid to start a business because it's a lot of commitment. Another friend of mine, I asked them, hey, I remember we talked about this business like last year, what happened? And then they told me, honestly speaking, I'm waiting for the perfect timing. I was like, is it the perfect timing you're waiting for, or you're afraid? And they said, I'm actually afraid to step out. And then I was like, I think this is like a really big thing, like fear. And so today I want to talk about the 5 fears that hold people from getting into this entrepreneurship space. And so today I want to talk about those fears and how we can work around them so that we conquer them. Fear number 1. Now, this fear causes people to fail before they even start. 33% of people say that it's fear that is holding them back. Let me tell you, none of us likes to fail. I don't think that there's anyone who wakes up in the morning and says, I need me some failure today. But, when it comes, we learn from it and we grow. Now, of course, there's some people who are more tolerant to fear than others. And starting a business involves, taking a significant risk, and the thought of investing time and money and the effort into a venture that may not succeed can be a daunting one. And if you ask many entrepreneurs, they've failed before they've succeeded. And the fear of experiencing that same failure can prevent us from taking that first step. And I think we should learn not to take failure as a personal failure and see it as a learning experience. Then I think it wouldn't be so much emotionally damaging when it happens. Because then when it happens, you start feeling feelings of doubt. And oh, by the way, sometimes we think, it's fear when it's actually things like self-doubt and imposter syndrome, as we will see. Fear is like a self-preservation mode. It's like a protective shield that we put on because of our past experiences, but also it can be very crippling because it hinders us from experiencing the full version of ourselves. Right now, there are so many people who have great ideas and they're stuck in jobs, but they can't step out because of the what ifs, the what if this might happen, what if this, or some may say, I've heard about that kind of business. Many people who started it have failed. Well, what if because of your unique abilities and skills and talent, what if you started, you succeeded, So get out of that limiting belief and start putting your great ideas into action. And here's the solution. If you're scared, to start, you just start small. And if you didn't watch my previous episode, I'll leave the link. I don't know if it's here or down, but I'll leave the link so that you can watch it. Therefore, the best way to combat that fear of failure is to face it. Yes. Face it. When you see fear coming your way, don't run away. Stand strong and say, fear, here I am. I'll face you, After all, I've heard people say that fear is false evidence appearing real. So face it, it's false. And this is how I've done things like bungee jumping and all those extreme sports. I had to stand in front of fear and say, I'm doing that bungee jumping. And so I end this point by saying that failure is a very huge part of success. So why not get out, start small, and get out of your fear and step into what God is calling you to do. Reduce that 33% that I was talking about at the beginning. Fear number 2 is the fear of not being good enough. So why is it that sometimes the hardest person to please is not your client, it's not your parent, it's not your friends, but it's you? You know, we are always finding fault in ourselves. See, this fear can sometimes be called the imposter syndrome. It's the fear that one day someone will find out that you are not as competent as they think you are, and that no matter how hard you work, you'll always be inadequate. See, most of the entrepreneurs have found this to be true, that they are not good enough. But they have, however, decided to step out because, you know what? Sometimes that fear of not being good enough does not just end at you not starting. But even when you have become a successful entrepreneur, that fear also still comes. So how can you deal with this fear? Invest in relationships. Find mentors, coaches, hang around people who believe in you. These people will help you boost your confidence. Stop comparing yourself. Now, I'll be honest, but this is easier said than done. But honestly, sometimes I also fall into this trap. I look around myself, and start comparing myself. But you know what? Embrace what makes you different and focus on being the best version of yourself. Master your emotions. Sometimes fear and self-doubt can appear like it's the fact, but they are only emotions, and they are as powerful as we allow them to be. Now, the solution is not just to ignore, of course, these emotions. When fear comes, the solution is not just to ignore that emotion. The solution is to acknowledge that emotion of fear and figure out at what point do I feel this emotion, and then start dealing with it from that point of view. But that fear of not being good enough, I think this is how we can start dealing with it. Find the right people to hang around with, coaches and people who believe in you. Fear number 3 is the fear of the unknown or uncertainty. Man, this is a huge one. As human beings, we are created with a curiosity to know the future, like what's coming up in the future, how will the future look like. We like predictability, we like stability, we like certainty. All these make us safe if we have answers to them. Well, let me burst your bubbles. Entrepreneurship is none of those. Now, of course, the unknown here could be many things, like financial uncertainty, that I am going to invest all my money into a business, but there are chances that it will work, but also huge chances that I will lose this money. There's a lot of unpredictability in the business environment. What if I make a wrong decision? All these and many questions paralyze people from getting into entrepreneurship. This also has a big correlation with not wanting change. We don't want to change if we don't know how that change will work out. Resisting change is a natural impulse. If we stay, for example, if you stay at your dead-end boring job, well, at least you know how your day will look like. If you stay in that bad relationship, at least you won't be alone. And then we keep in that cycle, and 1 year passes and the next passes. Can I say that none of us know what the future holds? We might have a glimpse of what it will look like, but no one knows fully how the future will look like. And you know what? COVID has taught us this lesson, that things can change rapidly and in big ways. How do you deal with this fear? First, I don't want you to just jump into things that you have no idea about just because I said act. Deal with the things that you can control and stop focusing on the things that you can't control. And if you keep thinking, oh, what if I start and fail, and what if I don't become successful, and this business that is hard to start. Well, let me ask you one question. What if you start and then become successful? Use a lot of common sense and conduct some research, and in that field that you want to get in, but you're still feeling uncertain about it. Have some enough data that that will help you get into that field, and then act. Fear number 4. Many people say it's too much hassle to start and grow a business, and so that brings me to my point that says the fear of the hassle. Starting a business can require a lot of effort and energy, and we naturally want to be lazy. We don't want much work that's going to require too much of us. Entrepreneurship is a lot of hustle, and I'm going to name a few of those hustles. First, you must think of a great idea that will generate money. Then you'll make a business plan. Then invest in your savings. If you don't have the savings, you'll have to look for investors. But you also don't like speaking in front of people. You must hire and manage people, which means that you're going to deal with conflict management, and you do not like disappointing people. You must keep selling, and you're not good at sales and marketing. You must deal with the IRS and the revenue authorities. You must stay ahead of competition. Your family might not see you in a long time. You'll have to wake up early and stay longer nights, and yet you also like to rest and chill. You like your rest time and chill time. This means that you won't have fun with your buddies. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's just a lot of hustle, and people look at it and say, you know what, let me just stay in this mediocre job. Let me just stay in this job. At least it doesn't require a lot of me. At least I don't have to deal with all that. Entrepreneurship requires a lot of decision making and taking responsibility. It's just a lot of hustle, and people look at it and say, you know what, let me just stay with that mediocre job. Let me just stay with with whatever pay I'm getting. At least I don't have to deal with all that. It's a lot of stuff to do. Entrepreneurship requires a lot of decision making and taking responsibility. People are always afraid that they will not handle all this stress, and so what they do, they choose to opt out. They choose to stay in conformity. And I think it's Al Nightingale that said that the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, but it's conformity. So people look at all these stresses and all these hassles that come with entrepreneurship, and right there, and then they quit before even starting. They have great ideas. They are so brilliant, but they are not willing, to step into that fear of the hustle, and, they just choose to stay in conformity. So you're wondering, how do I deal with this fear? Because clearly all these things that I've mentioned, that we've listed, are true. They are true about entrepreneurship. And so here are a few ways to deal with these fears. First, get a trusted business partner and create clear expectations for each other. Get someone who is strong in areas that you're weak in. There's a lot of power in collaboration. If you're weak at firing people or sales, there's someone that you can get who is strong in those areas, and so you'll collaborate, and then you will find that the hustle is reduced. The hustle is reduced because there's someone who is doing things that you hate, and then you'll be able to move on in business. Fear number 5. Now, this fear will shock you, and it is the fear of success. This fear will shock you, but it's true. It's true. There are so many people who are afraid of success. Like, have you heard people say, oh, those rich people, as if to say that, they are better off because they are not like them? Or have you heard people say something like, if that's what success looks like, then I don't want it? Well, why not then decide to be different if you become successful? People with this fear have an internalized belief that they are not good enough or that they don't deserve success. And the fear of achieving success and having, and having to live up to others' expectation can be so overwhelming. This fear can manifest in a variety of ways, such as procrastination, self-sabotage, or lack of motivation. This can also especially be true for people who have been conditioned to believe that success is not for them, or that they don't have what it takes to be successful. And then sometimes this success comes with self-promotion, and many people struggle with self-promotion and the fear of putting themselves out there. They may be uncomfortable with the idea of promoting themselves and their business. And the fear of being judged or rejected can hold people back. And again, this also brings in the same point that I had mentioned earlier. The struggle. It's the struggle of imposter syndrome, which is the fear of being exposed as fraud. This fear can lead entrepreneurs, not taking advantage of opportunities to promote their businesses, or not reaching out to potential, customers or partners. Also, success sometimes comes with rejection, and the fear of being rejected can be daunting, and that it can lead to people not taking necessary steps to starting businesses. This fear can manifest in a variety of ways, such as not reaching out to potential investors or customers, or not pursuing opportunities that may lead to rejection. This fear can also hold entrepreneurs back from networking and building relationships, which are critical areas for any successful business. And so, if I can suggest one word as the solution to all these fears that I've mentioned, it would be humility. That entrepreneurship needs a lot of humility. Humility to know that you might win, but also you might fail, and it's okay. Just keep moving. Just keep doing it. Humility to accept that you're not enough, but you're good enough for what God has created you to be and do in this world. Humility that you will never know fully what the future will be like, because sometimes life throws us curveballs, and you must adapt to those changes and still move. And so, do your necessary research, get a mentor, get a coach, face that fear, and get into the entrepreneurial space and leave the rest to God. Now, I know that there are many other fears that maybe I left out, and so I'd want to ask you to leave me a comment on which fear you think that I have left out, or which fear you think that is holding you back from getting into the entrepreneurial space. And also, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like, and I wouldn't mind if you share this content with your friends. I think it's good content, right? It is good content. Thank you so much.